Hi, everybody. Russ from the West Ham Network. Hope you are all safe and well. It's Friday. Got to get down on Friday. Not my words, the words of Rebecca Black. It's Friday. It's Friday. It's Friday. Yeah, Saturday, Sunday. What? Congratulations, guys. Another week we've got through. If you're new in here, give it a like, give it a comment, give it a share, give it a subscribe. All that good stuff. All that good stuff on the way to 10,000 subscribers, as you all well know. And also, happy Thanksgiving again to our American friends yesterday. Hopefully, West Ham securing that on the last 16 spot last night, and would make that turkey taste extra nice and that pumpkin pie. So a special Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving. Is that what you say? Happy Turkey Day to all our American friends from across the pond. As I said, fantastic yesterday, wasn't it? Europa League, obviously. Now we're in the last 16. We've got the game against Zagreb on next Thursday, but no, Thursday after next. But then we'd have to worry about this until March, really. I think it's the 25th of February is the draw for the 16s. Obviously, there's the 32s. So obviously, all the third place Champions League spots go in. So, the likes, I think Atletico are going to be in there. Potentially Barcelona, Dortmund are going to be. There's some big teams in there. So it'll be exciting, whatever happens. Let me quickly go through the chat quickly, and then we'll talk about today's subject, which is a little different in terms of what we usually talk about, I think, on these shows. Trev, the Douche, we'll talk about Douche later. Ludders, hope you're well. Mario, hope you're well. Mario Tudor. Duji Kletikar is a very good defender, but sometimes he is also good for a major mistake. And most of the time, he's very good, dangerous after corners in front of the opposition goal. Interesting. Thank you very much, Steve. Hope you're well. Gary, hope you're well. Hope you had a lovely Thanksgiving, my friend. Gaza, Simon, Budgie, hope you're well. Steve, hope you're well. Kletikar and Carvadio. First choice centre half for Croatia. That's good. Rob, hope you're well. Everyone's talking to each other. It's lovely to see. How are we? We are massive and we're very well. We're in good voice after yesterday. Professional job. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, I think. We'll looking forward ahead to Man City as well. But I want to talk about a specific subject first before we crack on with that. Good evening. Udo, hope you're well, my friend. We would like to see Nathan Ake on loan, since he's not used much. Will be a very good replacement for him. It could be indeed. Thanks for the chat. Always Gaza for my US friends, man. Always. Anil, hope you're well. Hope today's subject is cheese or hamburger toppings. No, we're talking about football at the moment. There's lots to talk about at the moment. Good to see Perkins come on. Shame he didn't score. They can't all be Freddie Sears. But yeah, no, he did seem to. It was good to see more than anything, I think. Anyway, let's talk about something. So obviously, we know Mr. Ogbonna, Oggy to his friends. We know he's out. Most likely for the rest of the season. 9 months. Obviously, he had his surgery last Friday, I think it was Thursday or Friday, and now we're going to the January. So that's 6 weeks away from January transfer. It's pretty much written in the stars that we're going to bring in a centre back of some description. Now there is options. Obviously, the youth team, as Stell talks about all the time, with the like of Baptiste and stuff like that. But I think realistically, he'll want 4 first-team centre backs in the squad, and at the moment we've got 3: with Zuma, with Dawson, with Diop. Now, for me, there's it's what we tend to do, and what most channels tend to do, to be honest, is they look and see what teams, what the papers are saying, who we're linked with, all the rumours, and they'll basically go, this is who we're interested in, this boy, like Kaleta. But do we know much about him? Do we know much about these players? So we've teamed up with West Ham Analytics, who's a lovely bloke, lovely Twitter account, who did a lot of analysis into looking into potential left-sided centre backs, looking at Ogbonna in terms of what he brings to the team in terms of his statistics, and then he's casted his net quite wide, to be honest. So I thought what would be quite cool is going through that with you guys, because I think on Twitter it's really interesting, but I think actually where you can talk and interact with one another, I think these would be really interesting. So it's very different. It's going to be quite stat based, quite analytics based. But this is sort of what people do, and this is my assumption of what happens with now with people like Rob Newman involved. Now he'll have a team of analysts who this is their job, and they'll go and scour the market, scour the world for potential people coming in. And so for me, this is quite interesting. And so, and I imagine then they go through it all, look at all the stats, and then present a shortlist to David Moyes. So that's what we're doing now. We're presenting a shortlist. We've looked at lots of different players, lots of little centre backs all over the world, and now we're putting together a shortlist of potentials. And I guarantee there's some people in here you've never heard of. But there's been people we've signed who you've never heard of. Fabian Balbuena, for example. He was sort of plucked out of Corinthians, the Paraguayan international, and he did all right for us, I thought, for not a lot of money. So there are some bargains to be had. So that's what we're going to do now. And feel free in the chat, once you see things, and if you enjoyed this type of thing, let me know afterwards. Because we could do this as a regular thing, maybe looking at forwards and stuff like that, maybe looking beyond Hlošek and stuff like that, looking at other potentials that we could get in with lots of players all over the world. So let's see if you like it. Okie dokie. So obviously we know Ogbonna is out, unfortunately, and there he is holding his knee, bless him. Oh, what a shame. And so, as I said, we're looking for a replacement. So let me take myself out so you can see. So what we've done is so West Ham Analytics looked at Ogbonna's stats based on a number of different criteria. The one on the left is more of, I'd say, traditional defensive criteria, so like defensive duels, aerial battles, that type of thing, block shots. And on the right hand side, it's more about the more attacking, so passing, long passing, progressive passing, running with the ball, scoring goals, and things like that. So by looking at that and putting all that into Oggy's his performances for West Ham, this is how he pans out. Okay, so I appreciate there's lots of stats here, but don't worry about looking at all the stats. We're just going through. So that's his sort of analytic profile. Is that the right way of describing it? An analytic profile? Probably. So what we're going to do is we've got a number of players that we've looked at, and that West Ham Analytics has spent a lot of time putting these stats in and comparing them to Oggy. So Oggy's like our base. It's all about the base, no treble. And so the idea is maybe there could be some gems, and maybe Connecticut might be one of these ones we pick, for example. There we go. He says, alluding to that. So let's look at it. So the first guy is this guy, Marcus Senesi. He's 24. He is Argentinian. He plays for Feyenoord, so we're in the Dutch league at the moment. He's 6'1". He's 17.5 million quid, and he is not a bad player. And none of these people are bad players at all. I think there's some real gems, I think, potentially here. Senesi does have quite a high, and you can see where they perform better than Oggy, they're in green. Where they perform the same, they'll be in sort of a yellow-orange. Where they've performed worse than Oggy, they're in red. So there's not a lot of red. There's not a lot of red across all these ones we go through. So for me, this guy looks not bad. 24, 6'1". My only slight qualm now is, given the experience the experience we've been having with obviously Antonio traveling away for all these internationals, if he got picked for the Argentina side, for example, he'll be flying all the way to South America all the time for the international breaks. Could that make a difference in terms of people we pick? I don't know. But he's playing in the Dutch league, good standard, and you can see here he's got some good stats, particularly when it comes to the progressive passing and also the progressive runs. So rather than necessarily passing the ball, actually bringing the ball forward. So I think he's a decent one. 7.5 million doesn't seem like a lot of money, particularly for a 24-year-old as well. Then we're sticking with the Dutch league. We're sticking with the Dutch league, and now we've got this guy, Armando Opisapou. Oh, no, he can't be Opisapou or Pisapou. We got Armando. He's 22. He's a Dutch player. Plays for PSV. 6'1", so slightly smaller than Oggy. 10 million quid. And this guy to me is slightly more of a bruiser. He has a very high percentages for aerial duels in terms of success, almost 16% more than Oggy. But passing slightly lower, progressive runs slightly lower, But an all rounder, I think this guy is. And again, for 10 million quid, he could be a good one, particularly with the Dutch league as well. Strong league there. Who's next? This guy I like. Lisandro Martinez. He's 23. He's an Argentinian international. He's not. He might be an international. I didn't check that, but he's Argentinian. Plays for Ajax, and he's 5'10". So for me, he's slightly smaller. You're losing about 5 inches. He says, laughing, to Oggy, for example. So, but what you get instead is you get a guy who's got a hell of a leap on him, because despite being 5'10", he has a very high success rate when it comes to aerial duels. He also has almost 92% success rate for passing, a hell of a lot long passing, brings the ball forward quite a lot, and also a lot of progressive passing as well. So I think he could be a good one, but he comes with a price tag of 25 million quid. So you get this. The guys who are very, very good have a very, very high price range on them. So for me, I think this guy could be a good one. And James, good point. I love the stats. I think it's proved that the work ethic plays a massive part. Only takes you so it does, James. But I think what the stats does is the stats give you the opportunity to then have a smaller pool of people to then pick for. And this is not including giving it the Morty's MOT test. This is not including how long they have to run on their contracts as well. These are all left-sided players as well. And then also, for example, things like how they play. Do they play in a back four and a back three? Do they play both? So that's the thing. So there's lots of extra, but it's just something different to look at, rather than necessarily go around going, oh, we're just going to do, I don't know, we're going to look in the sun who we're after. Go, oh, he's all right. This gives us a bit more of a clue about what's going on. What we got here, Russ, is it possible to do the same with the potentially, man? We can do. We'll be talking about the academy legs a bit later on. Martinez can play centre midfield also. He's quality. Freedom Sounds knows all about him. Steve's lost. Don't worry, Steve. Don't worry, man. We'll walk through it. It's just like a bit different. And I thought it was a really interesting way of looking at who we could get players in, rather than necessarily who the I don't know, Claret and Hughes say, or who or X says. This is more of a slightly more thinking. Gary likes it. I like it. Cheers, Gal. Who else we got? This guy, Marc-Olivier Kempf, 26 from Stuttgart, 6'1". He's 10 million quid. Good all rounder. This guy. Looking. Even if you don't understand the stats, and just look, I've turned the sound off. The pictures are pretty. Unbelievable, Neil. So for me, he's got a nice profile. Even if you don't look at the stats, look at Ogbonna'S in the claret. Almost said purple then, bloody idiot button. And then Kempf is in the blue. He's 10 million quid. He plays at a good league as well. He plays for Stuttgart. He's strong. And he's a decent height. So I think this guy could be a good one as well. We've got, oh God, I think we've got Mikola Mitjenkovic, 25, 12.5 million quid from Shakhtar Donetsk, Ukrainian. He's not for me, this guy. I just think it's the Ukrainian league, and obviously all these stats are from the country they play in. So again, yesterday we talked about what a great game Vlasic was, and various other people, but it's about the opposition you play, and here it's the same. It's the type of football you play as well. So all this is taken with a pinch of salt. We know this, but hopefully you find it a little bit more different than our usual spiel, really, about transfers and rumours and stuff. I don't fancy this guy at all. Joan Lukumi. I wonder if Mikey's in the chat. He might know it. He plays for Genk, 6'2", 12.5 million pounds. Not a bad all rounder. Not a bad all rounder at all. Could be, but Colombian. So the same issue I have with South American players in terms. Oh, here he goes. Mickey, what are your thoughts about Lukumi? Statistically looks all right, man. Yeah, he doesn't look a bad player, I think. And as you said, he's got great potential. You see, he's got great potential. So maybe the only issue I have with this is it's the Colombian issue, in terms of, in the same way we have a big problem with when Antonio goes to Jamaica, we're worried about how many miles he travels and that would be the same with this guy potentially with Colombia, with all the just in the like whether he's the World Cup qualifiers or whatever, and getting the world. Say he plays for Colombia and gets into the World Cup, he'll be playing in the Premier League. He'll be have more eyes on him, so potentially he could be breaking into the Colombian side if he's not already, and be a lot of travel and stuff like that. Not too sure. But as Mickey says, he's got good potential. Loving the show. This is the Zodiac hour of Russell Grant. Well, it's one Russell, but there we go. Indeed, fresh. Indeed. That coffee. It's the coffee, isn't it? Colombian coffee. Got to love a bit of Colombian coffee. Right. Who's next? We've got Ricardo Garassi. He is from Vasco da Gama in Brazil. He's Brazilian, obviously. He's 6 foot, 3.5 million quid. But for me, I mean, he's got great stats. He outperforms everywhere apart from non-penalty goals, which is not necessarily a huge base. Anyway, I think Oggie's about 0.12 he averages. So for me, he's a good player. But again, he's a Brazilian, 3.5 million. He's quite cheap. He is quite cheap. Absolutely, he's been in the international squad for a couple of years and has been handling it well. Fair enough. Well, it's good to know, you see, and that's why we've got people like Mikey on here, because he can add that little bit of context. So maybe Lukumi might be a good player because he can already handle the differences between Colombia playing for the national side and then playing in the Belgium league. Russ, be careful. Tottenham's Davison Sanchez is also Colombian. Well, apparently, by Jamie O'Hara says he's not going to play for Tottenham ever again after his display yesterday. So there we go. Jamie O'Hara, the gift that gives on giving. God bless him. God bless him. What would we do without Jamie O'Hara to cheer up our Friday lunchtimes? Next, we got Morato. He's Brazilian. He plays for Benfica in the Liga Brin. 6'4", big lad, 18 million. For me, he's a bit of a brute. He's a bit of an old school defender in that he has very high defensive stats, but you can see, even just you look at the green and red, not so high success rates when it comes to things like long passing and stuff like that. So he's more of an old school defender. I think we've already got that in terms of Craig Dawson. So I'm looking at someone who's got more green on the more progressive side, to be honest. Somebody who can handle themselves defensively. That's their primary job. But it's that, and that's the issue we've had slightly with Craig Dawson in terms of he's a great defender, but he's not that. He's an old school defender, if that makes sense. But I think he's great. And I mean, this guy is 20 as well. So, but he's 18 million quid. But he's playing in the Portuguese league. It's good league. Obviously, we've had a few like that. Gary likes brutes. I don't mind a brute, but I think we've already got one in Craig Dawson in this. He's got a proper. I mean, some of those challenges yesterday were a little strong. But anyway. Right, let's see who's next. This guy. Now, this guy is, well, he's my guy. This guy's my guy. But he comes with a hell of a price tag. Sven Botman. He's a Dutch international. He's 6'4". He's a brute. But he can play a bit. He's 30 million quid. He's 21. He plays for Lille, so he plays a high level of football. But look at those stats. I mean, he wins, unsurprisingly, he wins a lot of aerial battles. He's 6'4", Russ, you idiot. He does well in terms of progressive passing. He brings the ball forward quite a bit, and he has just as good pass success as Ogbonna, but he's 30 million quid. And if you look at his stats, they're almost identical in terms of their patterns to Ogbonna. So although I really, really like this guy, he's 30 million quid. The chances are bigger clubs than us are going to be sniffing around for this guy. He's 21 as well. So just playing in Lille, he might go to PSG. He might go to a Real Madrid. He might go to an AC Milan, a Bayern Munich. So I like him. He's great. But I think we may just... might be a step too far for this bloke, to be honest. You have to be a top player to come into the Premier League as a defender and hit the ground running, which is why Tarkowski makes more sense. He's out of contract. But John, he might do, but I think he's a bit old for us now. I honestly think he's a bit old for us, but there we go. But we'll see. We've got plenty of time to debate that. We can have a big debate about a huge one, a mass debate about that. There's this guy, John Brooks, 28, American international, plays for Wolfsburg in the Bundesliga, 6'4", big lad, 15 million quid. For me, I think you get more for your money for 15 million. He's 28, so you're not going to get as many years out of him than say spending a little bit more on Martinez, who's 23, for example, and he's a couple of million quid more. So, yeah, he'd come in, he'd probably do a great job, but wouldn't do a huge job for many years to come. And I think this is the opportunity now to have the ability to get someone who could then form this partnership with Zuma, with Johnson, and then a left back, hopefully, for many years to come, and with maybe Areola in goal, or maybe Sam Johnson in goal. Who knows? Who knows what we're going to do with our goalkeepers in the summer? But there's an opportunity there to build something then which would be a bedrock for our team for many years to come, all being well, obviously. What has happened here? I know. I've gone all analytical. This is like my day job, so that's why it's perfect. Brooks is too expensive considering the age, and he's just okay, nothing more. What has happened to this show? Unbelievable. Talking football. I know, on a football channel. Would you believe it? I know, but the thing is, it's analytics and data, and this is basically my job outside of West Ham Network. Is research. So it's like for stuff like this, I get really into, and I just thought you guys might dig it something a bit different. So right, John Brooks, we got our first Premier League defender. We've got Mohamed Salisu for Southampton, Ghanaian international, 6'3", 7.5 million quid. He very similar sort of. Even if you just look at the shape, very similar profile to Ogbonna. More of a brute, I'd say, in terms of long passing, progressive passing in general. The percentages not as great as Oggy. For me, he did okay when he played us. We played him the other, Southampton. He started off quite poorly, but grew into the game. But obviously, the issue here is he plays for Ghana, and he'll be. I think they qualify for AFCON, so he'll be out. Great suggestion by Ludders. Why not just ask Zuma who wants to play and comes up with him? Well, that could be Rudiger then, wouldn't it? Well, it might be Diop. It could be Diop. Diop could be the long successor. Who knows? Depends what Moyes thinks of him. Then there's this boy. Now, this is the boy. I'll be honest. I think this is the guy. Kiletakar, 25. He's a 6'4". He's bigger than Ogbonna. 15 million quid. He's on his transfer market. Say to him, he's worth. And if you look at the stats, I mean, pretty much they all are outperforming Oggy. The only exception is maybe the goals, and even things like aerial duels. It's less than one less, and that might just be the way that Ligue 1 play in terms of maybe it's less high balls or something like that. Same as things like block shots as well. But again, even that would be so small. This guy is my pick. He has a fantastic, it was almost 92% pass success rate, almost 60% long pass success rate, 83% progressive pass rate, and also the progressive runs, so bringing the ball forward. He does that quite a bit as well. 15 minutes. He's got the Croatian link as well for in terms of Vlasic. There's that association. He's a Croatian international. We've already mentioned that in the chat. And I think it's a good league he's playing for as well. It seems in the chat, Duje would be my pick. Kiletakar would be 100% be my choice. Very good stats, and that's in France. Exactly, Mario. And that's the caveat you have to add on top. Is the French league anywhere near as competitive as the Premier? Well, I think it's, but he's got the physical attributes, I think, John. They're all predominantly left-footed, these guys are. That's one of the caveats we put in. West Ham Analytics did was they're all predominantly left-footed. Although Kiletakar sort of can play both. He can play right side as well, and he has done, but it's the left-sided that we're looking at and predominantly. So good point there, Oz. So yeah, as a Kiletakar, I think is my pick. But we'll go through a few others because there's some really interesting guys here who I've never heard of. This guy, Ravi Tagir. This is one to watch out for, I think, in the few years to come. Plays in the Turkish league, in the Superliga for Başakşehir. He's Turkish, 6 foot, 7.5 million. He's 18. But he is more like the modern day full sort of centre half. Lots and lots of passing, 76% passing success rate. Why 82% progressive passing. He brings the ball forward quite a lot as well. So for me, something like this, 7.5 quid, 7.5 quid, I always 7.5 million could be a punt for the future. Could be a punt on the future for me. But again, he's someone I've never heard of, and I think he could do a job. Maybe not coming in straight away, but maybe we've got enough cover for that straight away. But as a future centre back, he could be a good one to add to our growing list of Baptiste and Alesse and people like that. Then there's this guy, Assessio Romagnoli. He's 26. You would have hopefully known him. He's from AC Milan. He's 6'1". He is available on a free transfer in the summer. His contract is due to expire at the end of this summer. But for me, I think there is a chance he'll sign another deal with AC Milan before then. This guy to me is a bit of a brute. He's a big he's in the mold of a Bonucci player and Chiellini. He can't. He's on the sort of the conveyor belt. So I think he's someone you can get straight in straight away, and I think he'd go in and do a job. And looking at his stat, look at the way that the stats pan out. It's almost bar one or two identical to Ogbonna. Ogbonna came from Italy, playing for Juventus in Italian international. Romagnoli is an Italian international. Almost a like for like, but this to me, just he has slightly less distribution skills. Yeah, they're usually class, man. They are usually class. Let's quickly have a look at the chat before we talk about a few more. Ben me on a free short term would be good. Short term, I don't think we need short term now, Ken. I think we've got enough for the short term with Craig. But I think now it's, long term, I reckon. But each their own. PSG is a top team. Lyon, Monaco, Lille, Marseille, all decent teams. They are indeed. You know who's also available? Jason Denier. We've mentioned about Jason Denier, but he's played already in the Premier League as already. Ramone, he does look interesting, but I think he's a step too far. I think he's slightly more old school. I think we can look for maybe more of a progressive centre half. Again, I could be totally wrong. He might be a lovely bloke, and maybe the people we pick are absolute tossers. And Moyes won't let him in near the ground. So who knows, man? But he is interesting, I think. And same as this guy, we got Ethan Pinnock from Brentford, 6'2", 10 million, 28. I mean, for me, he's obviously got Premier League experience, but plays for Jamaica, so he'll be on the same flight as Antonio, which maybe is not the best thing. And 28. So I don't think we need. I think we need more. I think you're looking about 20, 25 and younger. To be honest, 26 maybe tops. In terms of the next what's it called, the next level for us. Yep, he plays for Jamaica. He does play for Jamaica, and so he'd be on the same flight as Antonio. And we all worry about Antonio. If we had worried about Antonio and our centre half as well, yeah, I'm not one for that, to be honest. Milenkovic looks great. He does, and we obviously after him, but he signed a new contract, so he's going to cost us a lot more money for Milen. And no one put a bid in for him, really. We were interested, but I don't think anyone actually put a bid in for him. So we shall see. Right, not one for me. Pinnock is good stats, but not one for me. There's this guy. Now, this guy, I think, honestly, this guy is my bit of bargain. He's a bit of bargain. He is. He's a bud and bargain. Bud and bargain buy. His name is Kapu Kiwior. Kapu Kiwior. He's Polish. Plays for Spezia, who are in the Calcio A. He's 6'2". He's 4.5 million. He's 21. Look at those stats. Look at them stats. He is what I call, he's got a hell of a long pass. He's got progressive. He runs forward with the ball. He wins aerial battles. He's 21 though. I think exactly a very good. Thank you, Mario. Indeed. But I think this guy, 4.5 million. Well, that's what they say on transfer window. That's what I mean. Good stats and this is what I mean about what we're trying to do. We uncover these little gems who we're probably going to have a look at later on. It's not in the Polish league. He plays for Spezia, who are in the Calcio A, I believe, aren't they? Spezia, Calcio A, and they are currently Spezia. Yeah, they're currently. They've played last season. They went up for the first time. Where are they now in the league? They're 15th in Serie A, so they play for Serie A. Polish fella looks like a bargain. He does. Prettiest picture. He is. No, it's Serie A. So it's not in the Polish league. So he actually plays in Serie A. So again, where Oggy's come from, but he's 21. So that's what I mean. I find this after all these names will roll up and Russell says, right, so we're going to get Phil Jones. Exactly. How did you guess? Yeah. There's a preview of what happens later on. There's this guy, Evan Ndikia, just for his name. We haven't had a Dix in the play. We haven't had a Dix play for us for ages. Evan Ndikia, this guy isn't for me. I'll be honest. He's 22 though, French international. I don't think. I think he's played. He's been called up, I believe, but I don't think he's played as much. Frankfurt. He plays obviously Bundesliga. 6'4", big lad. 28 million, lots of money for him. But for me, he doesn't have that passing distribution that we're looking for. He brings it forward a lot, as you can see with the progressive runs, almost 2 a game. He does. So that sort of could maybe offset his deficiencies in terms of passing, but I just think he's a lot of money, and he seems to be more akin maybe to the more, I don't know. I don't get the right feeling with this guy, but the fact he's French, our French triangle could be looking at him maybe, but he's a lot of money, I think, for what but he plays in a good league. And that's the thing, this is all subjective. We're not picking our players, but it's all subjective here. So I think there could be something here, but for me, I'd probably pass on him. But then you'll see next week we'll probably put a bid in for him. George, now George, bless him. Here we go. Mario said about Ndicki. He said in the Bundesliga, he's too overpriced. He's doing crap this season. Great. Ndicki's name would fit in a lot of homework projects. It certainly would. We've got Georgie, 27, Sparta Moscow, Russian international, 6'2", 12 million. I'd let it pass. 12. He's 27. He's coming. He's basically in the peak at the moment, but you're not gonna get it for long. He passes the ball quite successfully, but for me, nah. No, I don't think so. Sorry to ask, but I was late. Is the red green on the left comparing them? It is indeed, Oz. It is indeed. So, and you can go back and watch the beginning if you found this interesting. So yeah, for green, it's where compared against Ogbonna, he outperforms. Yellow would be, or orange would be exactly the same, and red would be less. I hope that makes sense. And we'll try and simplify it in a minute anyway. So there we go. And you'll see here the claret is Oggy. You'll see it in the chart at the bottom, and the blue is the player who's selected. We've got Samir, who's from Udinese in Italy, Brazilian international, 6'2", 8 million quid. Bit of a bargain, but I don't really fancy him, to be honest. Again, it's quite interesting how similar the Serie A defenders, the shape of their stats compared to Ogbonna. They're quite similar. They are quite similar. But for me, 28. He's 28. He's 8 million quid. 26 rather. 8 million quid. Yeah, it could be an interesting one. And finally, we've got Marcelo, who is 25 from Brazil. He plays for Galatasaray in the Superliga. He's 6'1", 12.5 million. Good, and he is a guy who's basically, he's all about the distribution. In terms of his passing, but also running with the ball forward. So he could be an interesting one to look at. But I think there's better ways you can spend that 12.5 million quid. There's a few notable honourable mentions, which you can look through. A lot of younger players between the sort of ages of 18 and 23. You've got people from Bundesliga. You've got the Russian league, Superliga. You've got and various others, La Liga as well. So I preferred the button we've done. Yeah. We've got a new one coming next Thursday. We've got a new transfer monitor. I'm having issues with getting patent pending for Budden's believability barometer. So we've got a new sort of rating system for next Thursday. We're trying it out. We still include the sounds though, so don't worry, mate. So basically, in terms of top performers, if you look at each of those stats individually, that's how they all pan out. And so For me, you've got Senese. He's there. He outperforms in quite a few. We've got Pinnock, Ramagnoni, Abitapu, in the more sort of progressive ones on the right hand side in terms of the distribution. Martinez performs well. Kiwior, obviously, we know he looks like a very good player. And you've got Marcelo in terms of progressive runs, and Tagira as well is there as well. So again, it's interesting to see. There's lots of different ways you can look at it, to be honest, in terms of cutting the data. I did it a little bit different as well, because obviously you're looking at different stats against different stats. So I try to normalize it. Don't worry about looking at this. This is only to prove that I've done it. Okay, this is like my job. So basically, Ogbonna'S like your base. And so, I've then gone in and put all the stats together, and then I've basically put a rating. So if it's less likely, then Ogbonna is red, and then you've put all the others with various others and things like that. And Mrs. Budden's just coming. Sorry about that. I'll be it's all right, don't worry. So what we've done is we've taken it and looked at all the individual parts and put together an index system. So basically, and what I've done is as well is I've awarded points. So if you get no points if you're a really bad stat, and you're less likely if you're slightly a bit better, 1 point. Put them all into the supercomputer, and this is what we come up with in terms of ratings. So Kiwior is top of the pile. Absolutely top of the pile. Martinez is up there as well. I've highlighted my picks of Botman and Coletta and Ramagnoli. They're all in there as well. So again, it's something a bit different. But obviously Coletta I think is the one where on paper we should be going with, just because he might not reach the stats, but you've got everything else and things like that. And I just found it quite interesting. And again, something different for us to look at. What we got here? Nice. Thank you very much. Nice, very good. After that, I want Juge or Kiwior. I think Kiwior would be someone you'd get as a development player. I think he would come he's got the attributes already, in my opinion. And also, I really want to thank West Ham Analytics as well, who basically did all this. And if you enjoyed it, afterwards, give it a comment on the video, give it a like, and then we can do maybe some more. And as I said, the youth team as well. Stell's, we're potentially going to be doing more of a its own show about the academy coming up soon. So yeah, there we go. So lots of great stats. Thank you. Really like this. Thank you very much. Excellent stats. Interesting show. Mrs. Budden wants to do the ironing, kinda. How did that take? Well, to be honest, West Ham Analytics did quite a lot of it already, to be fair, bless him. And what I took it a step further and just did the indexing as well, just to give us some sort of conclusion. And for me, Kiwior, obviously, Kiwior, got to learn how to pronounce it. Hopefully, one day if we sign him, is top of the pile in terms of stats. But then you look at it, and then everyone performs better than Ogbonna. Anyone we get out of that group is an improvement on Ogbonna, on an average basis. Maybe not necessarily individual traits, but on an average basis. So there we go. I used to use this to compare mushroom stains. There we go. I did enjoy this. I'm very pleased. Right, I'm gonna head off today. I'll tell you why, because we could have a daily coming a bit later on. There was some news broken this afternoon, and this morning about some papers that have been filed with Companies House about Kaczynski in terms of intention to purchase clubs and things like that. So I'm going to hang off and not talk about that, because I think Stell's going to talk about it. We've talked a lot about the game already that happened yesterday. Tonight, we've got, for anyone who's at a loose end, I'm going to be on Claret and Booze from 9 o'clock, 9 to 11. And then Stell is doing a late show with the Claret and Booze boys from, I believe, midnight. So it should be quite a lot to do. So it could be a lot. It could be quite a bit of fun. And Anton will be back tomorrow with a preview for the Man City game. Then obviously we've got all the stuff with Man City, with all the games and stuff on Sunday. So and then we're back to another busy week next week. I didn't notice so far excellent stats. Well, there'll be you will be tested on that on Monday, so go through. Cheers I hope you liked it. Honestly, very interesting. Cheers, mate. That's really, really good. As I said, have a great rest of the day. Keep an eye out. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you like this, please let me know, because we'd love to do some more types of this. Again, it's not necessarily very little paper talk and things like that. We might not be even linked to these people, in real life, but it's useful to. I think it's really interesting, and it's the process that a lot of teams will go through to identify players that necessarily we've never heard of, and they just turn up with the claret and blue scarf. So I thought it was really interesting. Let us know, and we can obviously work with West Ham Analytics. Check him out on Twitter, West Ham Analytics. He does some fantastically interesting stuff, and I just thought this is the right format to try and do that type of stuff to showcase his work a bit more. As always, I'd like to thank all our channel members as well. Don't forget to like the show indeed. And as I said, Stell will be back later on, hopefully definitely with a late show, maybe with a daily show, and then we're back tomorrow with a preview and everything else. So hope everyone has a great rest of the day. Take care, everyone. Stay safe, wash those hands, come on your irons, and thank you to all our lovely members. Well, I love you so much. Bye-bye.
It's like a family tree, part of you.